I'll get that started while we're doing this show. So
So,
we're
Daryl, while you're
yes.
talking, I joined, but I can hear you in the echo here. So, how should I do this so it's not showing in?
You should probably do Clubhouse on your headphones.
I got you. Okay.
That way the sound won't come out into this broadcast. And so we're waiting for Denise.
What
But
what should I do? Because I got Clubhouse on here, and I got you on my. This
you
is
you
on my
just you're just gonna
laptop.
talk normally. Uh, Clubhouse is more of an experiment because we haven't really done a lot there yet. So don't worry about that. Um, it'll just go in the background unless a lot of people join.
Okay.
I'm just really getting Clubhouse started. But anyway, gentlemen, we're live on Facebook
Mute
and
on.
YouTube. So I want to go ahead and get this started. So listen, the first thing I want to say to people who are listening who may or may not have seen the video, the extended video where the young lady Ma Kia Bryant ended up losing her life. Let's talk about what was actually happening in that video. And we can start that by talking about some of the lies that people have told. The one young lady that we were just talking about, Dathon, at the beginning of before we went live. I don't really want to say her name. I guess we can, but anyway, she's a scuzz bucket who hates black men. I posted her meme yesterday because she said that she's basically getting tired of watching black men fiercely defend black cops who kill black girls. And so before we get into what was actually happening and what really went on, let's talk about how dangerous and how destructive um, that was. Because what ended up happening is that people started passing that meme around, and the discussion became black men are defending cops. So it became plural. It became
Mm-hmm.
plural. Maybe some brothers, I don't know, but I didn't really see anybody defending the cops. But it became plural. The whole conversation became about black men as a group defending cops who kill black girls, and
Mm-hmm.
that's just ignorant and hateful. Because as we'll cover during the show today, it wasn't really about defending that cop. What it was about was speaking to some behavior in our community that we've got to address. It's not about defending the cop, and it's not about blaming that young lady for for what ended
Call
up.
from
Oh, I'm
1773.
sorry.
No, it's okay. This is Denise. Hey, Denise, how are you, sister?
What's happening, brother? What's happening, brothers? How are you today? Happy
Hey,
Sunday.
Denise.
Good, good, good. All right, all right. Yeah, so we were just kind of clearing the air as far as the accusation that was made about black men defending cops who kill black girls. How destructive and stupid, ignorant, and hateful that is. And so that's probably a good way to kind of segue into the conversation. Let's talk about some of the things that actually occurred in the video. Let's start backwards. Let's start at the end. Let's start at the most traumatic portion where the cop actually took her life. One of the things that people don't understand, unless they've seen the whole video, the cop didn't just jump out and shoot her. Not what happened. What happened is that he came out and they were already fighting. Ma Kia had already attacked a couple of girls. Her father, with his bitch ass, had attacked one of the girls, and you could see it on video, he literally kicked one of the girls in the head while she
Mm-hmm.
was on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is the part that people need to understand. The cop was there during that portion. The cop was actually on scene out of his car, didn't have his gun drawn, He was on scene out of his car when Micaiah was beating the one girl, when her father was kicking the girl in the head, and when her father handed her a knife. And we got to be honest about this. Are cops demons? You damn right. I think 99% of them are a bunch of filthy demons. And that's just what it is. They're white supremacists who have been joining the force for a couple of decades now with a specific agenda. And with that being said, and then, you guys feel free to jump in. With that being said, we have to be careful because this young lady went in the house and called the police and then came back out, her and her father, to fight. If you're going to call the police, stay your ass in the house. If you're going to call the police, you cannot be in the middle of committing a crime because
Right.
that makes it worse. I'll open it for you guys to make commentary because I got some more, obviously.
Yeah, so I'll jump right in. I think when you see everything unfold, I'm not an expert, so let me just say that right off the cuff. I'm not an expert. But I imagine that the jurors, if it even gets to that point, which I don't think it will take a look and they will see a young woman with a knife with every intent to use it. And they will say that the police officer's actions are justified. Um, and I don't have any argument for that. The thing that has been unsettling about the conversation for me is two things. One, as you said, um, this use of this case to spotlight Black men as once again not protecting Black women. It's ridiculous. And then the second thing is, for those of us Black folks who want to believe in integration as the answer, um, relying on this conversation to point out that, see, not all cops are bad. Here's where we weren't quite in the right. So, we need to mellow a little bit on that conversation about cops being bad. And I think, for me, we can't do that. Is he justified? I'll go with that. But what we cannot ever afford to do is not center white supremacy. And so we've not only have we not centered white supremacy, we've now made Black men the villain.
Right.
In a situation where I think I counted 6 women,
Who were
six
out
Black
there.
women
Yeah.
out of 7 people on the scene.
Yeah.
So we got some real screwed up conversations coming out of this, and I just think we need to be really cognizant, Black people, about about this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's important. That we actually create the narrative, and that we create the narrative based on reality. And I
Yeah,
think that when you have demons who out there who hate Black men and want to use any opportunity they can find to actually jump in and say, yeah, Black men are bad. I think that's dangerous. That's
oh,
dangerous. Yeah,
it
it
is
does.
dangerous.
And it's an extension of the ignorant ass discussion that the Black Lives Matter, and let's be clear, the organization, which is a piece of shit, and that's different from the movement. The
Tell us
organization.
how you feel.
That's right.
Well, I'm a little shy, Denise. I'm a little shy.
Ain't mad
But
at you.
but yeah, Black Lives Matter, the organization, has done Black men a disservice because
Absolutely.
it gives the illusion that Black women are somehow out there saving Black men. And so now the narrative is Black women are protecting Black men and Black men don't protect Black women. Well, those heifers are protecting the white man's money that they got, George Soros, and they're protecting their ability to continue to get donations.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with the Black Lives Matter movement. That organization is a problem, but that's how we get the dialogue where demons are okay with saying Black men are bad people. Look what they're doing because they don't protect uh, Black women.
Yeah.
That's a problem. That's a
That,
problem.
Yeah, an extension of the conversation I've seen too is somehow we have to clean up our own yard first. Like there's this qualifier, got to clean up our own yard first. And so my response has consistently been, so we have to cure ourselves of oppression in order for the oppressor to think we're worthy not to be oppressed.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
Nonsensical.
Right.
and
very,
that's a huge problem because what people are trying to pretend that the dialogue should be is that, hey, if we go ahead and become better people, then the cops won't shoot us. No, that's not the dialogue that we should be having.
right.
Cops are problematic nationwide and around the world, and what we need to do, and I'm gonna tell a story, because I'm gonna give an example of when I first realized what our responsibility is as far as the cops are concerned. This was late '90s. I don't remember the young lady's name, but it was in Los Angeles. She had narcolepsy, and she decided to go drinking. So you already have a sleep disorder, and now you're drunk. And so she's in her car, and she has a gun, a loaded gun, and
Mm.
her family didn't want to, if that was my loved one, I'd break the back window to get her attention. If that doesn't do it, I'd crawl in. But they decided to call the police, and they decided not to give the police the information that
Yeah,
she had a gun.
yeah,
So you already know where this is going. So police show up, they knock on the window with the baton, they startle her, and she pulls her gun, and they shoot her dead. So, of course, people are upset. Oh, they shouldn't have done that. They should have done this. They should have done that. No, you know what these people are. You should understand. You don't call the police unless you understand what's going to happen, so you can be ready when they get there. So if your loved one is sitting in there with a gun, not sure you should be calling the police.
yeah.
Like, these
Right.
aren't the police aren't they're not Batman. they're, they're not coming to save you.
they're they're not coming to save black people, and we
And
also need to know that 100%. Like I have a no call the police rule in my house. Like no one in my house, I don't care what I hear going out on the street, we will yell from my apartment window, hey, look, stop it, we'll do that, but we
right,
have a no, you can't call the police from my house.
that's
And
right.
it's because we understand that slave catchers will do what slave catchers do.
That's
And
right.
as black people, we need to understand that. We need to understand fully that, that dude, if he had been in Bethesda, Maryland when this happened, if something popped off, he may have tried to tackle Sarah to the ground.
Yeah,
He would have
maybe.
done that. He would
Yeah,
not have pumped for in
right,
her back. We know that.
right.
Um, but we gotta also know that they're I keep hearing that this thing about they treat us like animals. No, they don't. Not at all.
No.
Ask Michael Vick.
Because they
You know,
love animals.
they
Yes.
love animals. They have thingamatized us. And so
Mm.
having
Bigamatism.
thingamatized us, they don't see us as having any intrinsic value beyond serving them. And if we are not serving them, then we are disposable. And
That's right.
it's and that's and I I'm so heartbroken for this young girl. I'm
Yeah,
so heartbroken.
yeah. Because it didn't have to happen. And I know you have a daughter. Do you have a daughter, Dathon?
I
I know
have
you
a
have
daughter and I
kids.
have two
Oh
sons.
yeah. I have
Yeah.
a I have an adult daughter. Mhm.
Okay, okay. So, yeah, so me and Preston are kind of out of this a little bit, although we have nieces. I have a son, but I don't have a daughter. Um, I think that when we start talking about protecting our daughters, part of that, whether you are a single mother, single father, or intact family, part of that means that you teach your kid to not be violent, right? You teach your daughter to not be masculine, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form trying to blame this little girl, but that that incident was going to be problematic no matter what, because she was a fighter, and her bitch ass father was out there fighting with her, fighting women, instead of go in the house, call the police, and stay in there, or just go in the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if that were my little girl or niece or whoever, that's what I would have done. You go in the house, I'll deal with it, and I'll try to de-escalate it. And if not, then yeah, we call the police. But you stay in the house. But literally, you can see on the video, he handed her the knife. He handed her the knife, and we have to be able, when we talk about how demonic the police are, we have to be able to understand what that means for us. Now, Preston, I know you had an incident with the police. I don't know if you want to talk about that or not, but one of the things I wanted to kind of throw to you is, just being a regular person, just walking around doing what you're supposed to do, can still create problems with the police,
Sure,
with the slave
sure.
catcher.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Well, I won't go into details, but the reality is that you can mind your own business. It doesn't matter how you're dressed. You can be 60, 70 years old, coming out of an office building, and then they can say, "Oh, we saw a young guy with a white T-shirt on, doing drugs." All right, and so they're going to choose you. It's those things that can actually happen. But for me, being in a situation, and this is one of the extreme situations I was in, but being in a situation, I had choices to make. I could have acted, given attitude, or don't bother me because I know I'm not doing anything. Do I look like I'm the one that's doing anything? I don't look like that person. I think that if I had acted differently, it could have gone a different way. And it isn't that we're going to help police officers do their job. It's that we need to make sure that we can actually make it home, right?
That's
Because things will actually happen out there, and in that situation, in that situation, it was evident that I wasn't the one, and actually the way that I was treated, so it went through a whole process, through litigation, if you will. But even the experiences that I had coming up as a child and seeing how people get an attitude with the police. And one of the things that I guess for me is that my mother did teach me how to respect authority. It doesn't mean that you get along to get along and you do things just to make them happy. That's not what it's about. But it's also understanding when people say do something and you do it, people in authority. And particularly when you talk about police, because you're really not in control unless you control yourself. You're not in the
that's
control of a situation unless you can actually control yourself. And I think that some people really get it wrong when you're really being objective in a situation, particularly in this situation, not to equate this situation, what happened to this little girl, with the situation that happened with George Floyd, because that's
right.
really what is my concern. When it first started happening, that's what you're thinking that actually happened just before the verdict. Just before the verdict, that everybody was pumping it up, but it really wasn't that kind of situation.
It wasn't the
So we
same.
got to be, and you can talk about the situation and all of its faults with the police, but you cannot equate that situation with the situation when we talk about black men are actually being killed and how they're being treated. And I think also I'll say this too, because we're talking about women dumping on black men. I think that if you're an objective thinking person, and because you're an objective thinking person, you don't agree with the masses. Everybody wants you to agree with people, with the Democrats. Everybody wants you to get along with this group, right? Which means that you're not supposed to think. You're supposed to do what they say, act the way they say, and nothing else matters.
Yeah.
And so when you are objective and you're thinking, then you get dumped on with black men are now taking for
The
cops.
police. Yeah. Yeah, which isn't true. There's an attorney from Chicago who's on Facebook. I follow her, April Prayer, and she says some things. I mean, and her whole mission is to educate people as far as interacting with the cops so that you can make it home safely. And she
Right.
says some things that get some irate comments from people because they're like, "Oh, why are you defending the police?" And it's not about defending the police. And then I'll bring this back full circle. It's not about defending the police. What it is about is knowing who they are,
Mm-hmm.
knowing what they will do to you, and then comporting yourself properly. You know, I have a young son, he's 13, and we talk about it. And I was stopped by the police in December, and he saw how I handled myself. There's only one way. You just comply. You keep your damn mouth shut, and you know whatever they ask you, do it. And if they're out of line, you deal with that later. But all of this, you know, I have the right to do this. You better tell me why you stopped me. I'm gonna get out the car. I'm gonna do this. No, I'm not gonna comply. We gotta stop that bullshit, and we have to stop thinking that in every case we can do what we want and not get killed, not get harmed. As you said, Denise, if that were little Sarah or Becky, the cop more than likely would have taken a different route. But that doesn't absolve us of, you know, actually knowing what we should do differently. Someone should have been talking to that baby. Someone should have been telling baby girl, get your ass back in the house. Her daddy is really the person who got her murdered because his bitch ass handed her a knife. Like, what did he think she was going to do with it? And he handed her the knife after the cops were already on the scene. So that blows my mind. I can't put that together. Go ahead, Denise.
Yeah, so when, I had to slow mo the video to actually see that, because I didn't catch that. And then I saw, when he was kicking the other person. And the only thing I could think is that if he's not seen this video, he's going to see it and he's going to relive it, and he is going to feel a tremendous burden.
Hopefully.
And I think he will. I don't see how because even in the moment when he's kicking, I'm thinking to myself, wow, if you had used that energy to tackle your daughter to the ground or something. And it's it's a horrible, horrible, horrible situation, because it is highlighting so many things about what white supremacy does to our community.
Yeah.
You know, first of all, this baby, she was in the foster care, system. Well,
Already.
so first of all, being in foster care, we can name 107 things, reasons why we don't want our children in foster care,
Right.
and what that will possibly lead to,
Yeah.
and what she was feeling, because I've known people and who've gone through the system, and especially when there's other family, you're trying to figure out, why in hell am I here and I have family?
Right. Right.
Like, explain that to me.
Yeah, because
You
her
know,
father
so
was there.
you
What was
know
that?
it and so it's just, we got to understand what white supremacy looks like. We got to understand that every police that shows up is representing white supremacy. He and she are part of that system. And we have to know that they're not coming to talk to us, that they are coming to thingamatize us. And what do you do with things? You get rid of them.
That's right. You
You get
manage
rid of
them. You
Yeah,
handle them.
yeah.
We're
You ha-
things. We're problems.
right.
You
Yeah,
handle things.
you
You
handle
handle
them.
problems. And I think that that's the biggest lesson that we could learn from this, instead of, you know, having particularly black women, stigmatize black men even further by accusing us of protecting or defending the cops. We have to learn how to comport ourselves with cops. We got to stop it. And here's another thing that I want to talk about. And you know, it's hard to, because in our current environment, for some black women, you can't say anything about black women unless you were calling them queens and beautiful and, you know, goddesses. You can't say anything. You can say black men are this, that, and the third, and it's all good. And that hurts us, because that keeps us from resolving or even discussing crucial issues. But one of the things that I want to say that I think we have to start talking about is how violent a lot of black females have become. You know, I mean, it's a discussion that has to be had because it's getting us in a lot of trouble. It's there's the incarceration rate for black women. Incarceration rate for black females is increasing, and it's not increasing just because it's fun to go to jail. They're more violent, and we got to talk about that. Like, why was this baby out there? Why did those four women come to fight her? Why did she run out to fight them? Why was she comfortable and cool with taking that knife? And you can literally see in the video, her arm was back. She was about to stab that woman. There's no way around that. And those are the discussions that we have to have. And I don't know why people are afraid to have it. It's
One
problematic.
thing, one thing that I noticed, even before you brought that up, is that when you said that the father gave the daughter the knife, you
Yeah,
have to look and wonder, why is it that we have a man, first of all, even co-signing his daughter engaging in something like
right.
that, one, and then engaging in something like that, two, with the weapon.
Right.
Something's not right. He's not even thinking on the level, like you called him a bitch ass.
He is. He's a
He's not
bitch.
even engaging on the level of what real manhood even dictates. You know, you would, why would you wait until the police show up and then decide, okay, I'm gonna give a knife and think that some other outcome would possibly happen? You're setting her up for going
Right.
to jail. You're setting another person up for potentially getting murdered, all types of things. And it just was bad all around. The police officer, he really was left with no choice based on what he saw. You know, somebody else might have waited a split second later, because sometimes, you know, depending on just how ratchet your situation is, some people might think, oh, knife is not that big a deal. You know, people have
And people have been
dealt,
saying,
Yeah.
huh?
people have actually been saying that.
Yeah, because it's like, I mean, when Reginald Denny got bust in the head with that brick, uh, the media was saying that it was attempted murder, and that's what they came down with. But
Right.
people in the hood know people have gotten hit in the face with bricks, hit in the head with bats, and nobody was trying to murder anybody. That was just their explanation point on how they was handling that situation. Now, knife, to me, especially a dagger type of knife, it's a little bit more heinous.
Yeah.
It represents a certain level of heinousness that you can't say that men are defending the death of that child. They're not defending the death of the child, but based on the circumstances, guy was like left with no choice. He had to act quickly and efficiently to stop the threat of that other person's life being taken.
Right. Because
Simple as that.
he was already on the scene. He didn't just jump out of his car. So he
Right,
was already trying to stop it. And he saw clearly that he couldn't stop her. You know,
right.
he couldn't stop her. She couldn't be stopped. She was already, her head was already in the game, and she was focused. She was focused that so much so that she had already, hit one woman, and even in front of the cops, she was on her way to stab another one.
She was raging, and raging in a way like LL Cool J said when he said, "Mama said knock you out." This is a situation. Daddy said do this. Now you feel sanctioned. You feel justified in your behavior. And if you only been on the planet for 15 years and you don't know how the police roll, you gotta understand. It sounds callous as hard, but you gotta understand that the police will drop you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
You know?
Yeah, I don't even think that I think she was just so out of it.
Rage.
I don't even think she heard the police officer say, "Hey, stop." Like when you're watching it, and it's so difficult to watch. Difficult is not even the word. But as you're watching it, you see like there's not even a moment when she flinches. And that's a lot of anger, a lot of hurt. And I just, like I said, as a mother of a daughter, I just can't imagine what what is happening with our daughters, that we have them so full of rage, and so full of anger and hurt. That's a lot of hurt, and that's a lot of pain. And we got to be able to talk about that. Now I will admit, I'm not so sure that I would, that I can allow myself to go so far and say that he didn't have a choice, because as I feel with every fiber of my being, if it had been Becky, his ass would have
Oh
tried to
yeah.
tackle her. He would have shot her in the leg. I was watching a video where this knife wielding student, white boy, had two, really huge knives, and he's, making efforts to try to stab at folks, and on a school campus. And once they finally figured out, okay, he's not going to drop the knives, they dropped him. But they caught him in the leg, rather. And they had, the same, uh I guess, line of shot, or whatever the terminology is, to be able to pump him,
So
center mass. But that's not what
yeah.
they did.
Well,
Right.
Well,
well,
go ahead, Preston.
yeah, well, I think that makes sense. We know in certain situations that cops deal with black folks differently than they deal with white folks. Well, I think that's a given. I think one of the things that we got to be really one of the things we got to be really careful about is um, saying what a person should do. Because if we were in a certain situation, we made, as Albania said, he had choices, but that was a choice that he made. And when you're in a certain situation, one like that everybody we could all see, you don't know what you may do in that situation when you have a split second. I think what's important also is that because we know that the cops are not there for us, that we do have to comport ourselves in a certain way and not put ourselves in the situations. Not saying
Right.
that the young lady put herself in that situation. Denise, you mentioned some things that, being in the foster system, her family, not having a real village that's really stepping up. All of those things really come into play. But we really gotta, for me, and that's a part of being really objective in a situation, that I can say, yeah, he should have done this or he could have done that, and those things could have actually happened. But I also think about the lady in pink who said he saved my life.
Yeah.
So from her perspective, she was like, he saved my life. And so, and again, you talk about the rage that she had. I akin something like that to road rage, when people do things that they may not ordinarily do, but when they're in a situation where they feel like they're being disrespected, they do something that they would not normally do, and which is what this young lady was doing. So yeah, we see, so there's the rage in the situation, but we got to look at it in terms of that particular situation. And again, I'm not going to even say that what he did was justified. He did have some choices, but that was the one that he made. And the young lady said he saved my life.
Yeah, I think the whole issue is cloudy and complicated, but I'm going to go back to the one point that for me is constant, that we have to get to the point where we understand that the cops aren't there
Right.
to be our friends, and we have to understand that 99, well, shit, damn near 100% of the time, things can go wrong and we can end up dead. And so that's why, for me, all the people who are trying to say that, the cops should have done this and should have done that, you can't really say that because you weren't in that situation. Did he have other choices? Yeah, probably. But here's what I also know, because I'm a gun owner and I've been to the range and I've taken gun courses. What I also know is that when someone is moving like that, you shoot them in the leg, that's probably not going to stop them. And if you miss, then that other person is that's it. That's it for her. They teach these demons, cops, to shoot center mass to stop someone. So if he's gonna shoot, he's gonna shoot center mass. That's just what it is. And
Yeah.
so I'm not defending him. I'm saying that we need to do better so that we're not in the street placing ourselves like, why call the police? That's that. Let's start there. If you know you're going back out there. I mean, her father knew we're about to whoop these chicks and I got a knife. Then don't call the police. Do what you're gonna do. Do what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
But when
There,
you call the police, they're gonna do what they do.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's
yeah.
that's just what
There,
it is.
yeah. It's there's a backstory to all of this that we're hearing third hand, fourth hand. Um, I think it may have been the sister that called the police. Then I've been hearing that the women were called over to the home to put the girl in check because her family, couldn't handle her. So there are all of these backstories. Um, and yeah, I believe the cop saved that young woman's life, the one in pink. I have no idea why she was there in the first place. Um, what I am trying to do is not necessarily have a perspective of objectivity, because I don't know that I'm even capable of doing that when it comes to police officers. I think they're um, I don't think very highly of them.
Yeah.
And any black people that are watching this who are police officers, we don't need to have that conversation. Brother is a retired police officer, so I understand the very difficult position that black police officers are in. I have mad respect for black police officers. So this is not by any stretch of the imagination, ignoring black police officers. Um, but I think that I am well within my right as a black woman in this country to indict slave catchers, and so that's really what I'm referring to. Um, but we don't know all of the backstory, and so I'm trying not to be objective in that sense, but also because when we talk about any kind of situation, it's so very easy to say, well, what if it was your daughter, or what if it was you in that situation? Well, yeah, if it was me in the pink, I'd be like, please shoot, please shoot, please shoot.
Yeah.
The reason that I am trying, why I don't want that, and I hope that as a community that we don't do that, is because every situation that we encounter can be personalized. We saw that with R. Kelly. Going on a different tangent here, but the conversation was, well, if it was your daughter, you wouldn't you would be singing a different tune about R.
Yeah.
What the reason why that conversation isn't valid is because it did not allow us to look at R. Kelly as a victim.
Mhm.
It did not allow us to understand what it meant for him to have been sexually violated, by his sister, and the impact that
Right.
that had on him,
Well,
and,
because he was
and
stigmatized.
because he was stigmatized. And so we just cannot afford to be part of that conversation that continues to stigmatize all of us. We really gotta center white supremacy, and that doesn't mean that we aren't looking, um, at how we are supposed to respond to things, because I firmly believe that just as we are fighting white supremacy, we got to be figuring out ways to strengthen our community. We got to
Oh,
figure out ways to be a village for each other. We've
yeah.
got to we got to figure out, in spite of the oppression, we've got to figure out how to heal ourselves, because they're going to keep kicking us in the kitchen. That's what they're going to do. They're
That,
not going to stop.
and that's
Anybody
yeah.
Anybody that's thinking that we're going to come, we're not going to be able to pray this away. We can't hope this away. We can't wish this away. We cannot go stand outside and have a kumbaya moment. That's not what's
It's
going to
not
happen.
going any well, and that's my point. My point is that we know who they are, we know what they do. The only entity that we can change is us. And
That's
so
right.
we got to have the discussion about how to interact with cops, when to call the cops. We got to have the story about being violent, particularly being violent in front of the cops. We got to have those are difficult discussions, and we got to be able to have those discussions without people starting to castigate us as a group. Like I said, with the black women all over social media who are saying, yeah, it's hard to watch black men fiercely defend the cops who are killing black girls. That's a bullshit conversation, and I hope. No, I'm not gonna say that out loud. I'll just pray because I want that to happen. I
Pray,
want
brother. Pray, brother.
hey,
Pray.
I just really feel like our community is in such deep shit that we really destroy ourselves further when we start blaming an entire group. This whole black men don't protect black women. We gotta stop saying that bullshit. And as a black nationalist, I really wish people would stop using my brother Malcolm X and using his words,
Oh
misusing
yeah.
his words. That
Misuse.
bullshit. They're like, well, Malcolm said it. He said the most unprotected person in America was a black woman because he knew black men didn't protect black. No, kill yourself because that's a goddamn lie. What that brother meant during that whole 60s, it was all about protecting our community. It was all about being men. That's why you see the signs, the brothers were wearing signs, I am a man. And what they meant was that they can't go to the extent to protect black women that white men could go to protect white women. So it wasn't about saying, yeah, we don't even protect them. It's like we should be able to do the same things. We should be able to have the same tools. That's what that was about. This bullshit conversation about black men not protecting black women typically comes from single black women who don't even know any brothers. Who don't have brothers, don't have men who love them, don't have fathers. They're not protected because black men protect black women that they care about.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many brothers in jail behind protecting a black and shit. And I could have been one of them. Preston and I have a family member that that used to wind me up and aim me at people. And it wasn't about protecting her. It was about her just being an asshole and wanting to be able to see some crazy shit happen because that amused her, even though it placed me in jeopardy and placed my freedom
Mm-hmm.
in jeopardy. But black men do protect black women that they care about. And so the conversation should be about placing more black men in the lives of black women who need to be protected. And that can only happen when we change our dialogue, when we change our behavior, when we change, a lot about what we're doing today. Now, just finding every incident to say, see, you see some black woman who got beat up because and she's walking by herself. See, black men don't protect us. Well, there were no black men around. And I would even say in this situation with this young lady who was killed, there were no black men around because her father is clearly a black bitch. He's not a black man. He's a black bitch. So there were no black men around. That's one of the things that we have to discuss because it
You
would
know
have
what
been
age person
beautiful.
her father was?
What age?
Yeah, roughly.
I know. I don't know. I mean, she's 16, so he might be a
Because
young
was
father,
he
so he
was he
might be
her
in his
blood father or was he her foster father?
No. That was her blood father. So she was in the foster home, and her father had come to visit her. So that was her biological father.
Mm, mm,
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
And he didn't look like he was an older dude. He might have been in
Yeah,
his
he looked
30s.
really young.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
he
He
might have
looked,
been in his 30s.
Right.
But he's a
Okay.
bitch. But we also don't know who failed him.
That's
right.
It,
that's where I was going with that.
okay, cool,
That's where I was
cool.
going.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
We don't know who failed him.
right.
Go ahead.
You know what strikes to me when we're talking about, again, things that happened in this young lady's life, and I talk about the village in a serious way. And when we talk about coming together, black women have to let black men in, and not make
Mm,
excuses,
yes.
because black men want to be in the lives of their families, and not simply because, not when I say family, not because they may have had children with them. It's the families. And so when we talk about the village again, it's that people who really want to contribute really should be a part of the person's life, and people need to stop. And I'll just tell you, it just amazes me when I hear people who I thought had some really uh, good critical thinking, had some really good, I won't say morals, but I mean, in terms of standards and how they really interact with their family, how they talk about black men without thinking that they had fathers and
Yeah.
brothers, but then you paint everybody the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that on social media, but unfortunately, I see that outside of social media too, in terms of
Yeah.
conversations that people actually have. I'm actually the work that I do. I'm actually out there, and actually in my private life, I'm actually out there touching people out there who are in situations where they may feel some kind of despair. And so everybody wants to just say, throw them away. I don't care what they may have done, but if somebody says that I'm trying to get my life back, I want to do some things as much as I can, if it doesn't take away from me, that I can't take care of myself and other people in my village, I'm going to reach out to them. I'm going to reach
Yeah.
out to them. And people today have this throwaway society. It's akin to this cancel culture. It's a
Right.
throwaway society. Oh, they've done this or they're this way. I don't ever want them to be involved. But they can be really good contributors. And we got to stop within our black community throwing people away. We got to
Throwing people
stop
away.
throwing black brothers away.
Well, that's why one of the things that made a lot of sense, when Dathon was talking about what may have been in her father's life. I get it. He may have been abandoned or neglected, and we've got, and earlier when Denise was talking about R. Kelly, we know he was molested and all kind of other horrific shit. But I think the bottom line is that black people have to change the way that we deal with each other. We have to stop, and I'm going to say it as a black man, we have to stop just throwing entire groups away. And I see it with black women so much, and because I am a black nationalist, and because I love black women, it breaks my heart when I hear, oh, black men are this and black men are that. And, to say, unilaterally that black men don't protect black women, I'm like, hell, a lot of us, there are a lot of black men who are unprotected, and to go back to what I was about to deal with, Preston and Dathon both talked about black fathers. And let's just be honest, there are a lot of black men who want to be in the lives of their children. And you hear women say, oh yeah, well, they're walking away. Well, if black men are so willingly walking away, then why is family court so damn crowded? Right? Like, why is the line to get in family court around the corner? And the people who say that have never been to family court. These dudes aren't just fighting child support, they're fighting for custody, they're
That's
fighting
true.
to see
That's
their
right.
children. And so those are the conversations we have to start having. We have to have conversations about allowing more black men in the lives of black families, so that then more can be protected. So, with that little girl who was murdered, we saw that her dad is off the hinges. He's empty. So he doesn't have much to offer her except the violence that he helped her participate in.
Mm-hmm.
But is there somebody else? Is there a cousin? Is there you get me? Because a lot of times, I mean, look, I've run mentoring organizations, and one of the biggest problems that we have this group of black men in a huge facility where we have activities so that we can actually mentor these young black men, and these mothers would fight us. They would fight us because they didn't want any black men in their children's lives. And I can't make this up because I've knocked on doors and had sisters tell, well, black women, they ain't my sisters, had these black women tell me they don't want black men messing around with their sons. And I'm like, nobody's going to do anything to your kid. It's an open facility where we're all in the same room, but that's the mentality that a lot of our sisters have. They're protecting uh, their children from black men, and that's got to stop. That's got to stop. You know,
Right.
black people, we have to start having some tough conversations about what we're doing. There are a lot of us who are willing to participate in the lives of children, whether it's, as uncles, stepfathers, whether it's, just a family member who's concerned. It's very, very rare, and maybe this child, this baby who was killed, maybe she's one of the people, but it's very, very rare that someone just doesn't have any black man or black woman, a grown black woman in their lives who can protect them. We got to stop that. We got to create a village and stop just saying we have a village.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. I think there are two really important things that you just said, and one is this whole idea of a village. I do have a daughter. My daughter is 11, and my daughter is diagnosed ADHD and ODD, and her father is deceased. And we were having some challenges with her behavior because there's some trauma there.
Yeah.
And one of the things that my oldest son did was said, okay, listen, she can live with me, because we're trying to go through this, monitoring her on school. I'm working, I'm in school. And my older son came to me and said, she can come live with me. I'm coming to get her
Mm,
because we have this child and we're not going to fail this child. And, you know, as what I think she needs, this is not about your mothering. This is what I think that what she is looking for is male influence. And
mm,
so during the week, she lives with my son. We've been doing that since school started. She lives with him. Um, and on the weekends, she's with me, and we are of one accord. And I did have some people look at me like, well, why did you do that? Because I want my daughter healthy and whole,
right. Because
and
it hurts.
I am not embarrassed. First of all, I have two grown sons, one who was able to take this on, right, to
Yeah.
recognize that this is what's needed, that we have to change, our family dynamics. And then I have a middle child who's, in his third year, at Bowie on his way to be a teacher. So I do have a little bit of knowledge about parenting, but this is what we were dealing with. And so we needed to adjust our family village in order to respond to this girl. And that's what we're doing. So this
That's so
notion of
sad.
a village, we got to take it real seriously,
Right.
and stop talking about it and using it as this sort of this the African proverb that's cute,
I
and really
know.
live it. and
That's
Yeah.
right.
and then the second thing you're talking about in terms of black women and our what almost seems like a propensity just to throw away black men. We can't have that conversation without having a conversation about our relationship with feminism. I can't stand
Mm,
it. I
Mm,
think it is one of the worst things that we have signed on to.
yeah.
This is not to say that black men have not hurt us, because that would be a lie, but to suggest that our solution to the hurt and the healing comes from a relationship with white women, the only people on the planet that can birth white men who are the architects of colonialism, oppression, and brutalization and imperialism says that we have absolutely lost our minds, because
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense that you would look for your liberation
That's right.
through that mechanism. The very person, like I said, the only person on the planet that can produce a white man, the very man that is got his literally now, because we now know what it looks like to say having someone's foot on your neck. We now know what it looks like. We
Yeah.
talked about it metaphorically, but now we understand what that really means. And that's who we are having a relationship, the one who births him. And that's the person who has his foot on our men's necks, our spouses, our brothers, our fathers, our sons. And so we are being really foolish to continue that relationship and looking for our liberation through that. And we're causing, I think, a bigger chasm within our community.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I've spoken on that before. And I think that once black women come to terms with their relationship with white feminism, then we can start to heal some of the things that have caused this huge rift. And some of our, beautiful female scholars like Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, they've spoken on it, because white feminism was about white women. And so when you try to graft the white woman's condition onto the black woman, then you end up with some weird shit. I mean, the zebra doesn't have the same issues that a lion has. The lion doesn't have the same issues that a monkey has. And so we have to get to the point where we can have a real dialogue about some of the damage that feminism has caused. White feminism. I know that some decades ago, black women made efforts to have their own movement, and they were calling it womanism. And
Right.
yeah, and I don't know what happened to that, but that would have made sense, because I keep saying damn feminism, but if black women create their own movement, whatever that movement is, shit, you'll find black men out there on the front lines.
Right.
Because we don't want the women that we care about to be oppressed, and we're certainly not in power to be able to oppress them. So all of this, and it's not just that's a huge problem, but I think our biggest problem is that so many of us want so badly to step out of our pain that we think the way to do that is to try to be as near white people as
White
possible.
adjacent. Yeah.
White adjacent. I was having a conversation a couple of days ago, and we were talking about some of these ignorant ass men who are supporting some of the destructive statements from sisters, like dudes who are saying, well, you need to be able to get out here and make millions so that you can have a woman and she doesn't have to work. I'm like, dude, wake up. And that's him trying to be a black Anglo-Saxon Protestant, because like the whole concept of black men just rolling out and just supporting an entire family on one income is so bizarre, right? I mean, only 5% of African Americans make six figures. And when you look at that, that should sober you up. So these goofy ass broads who are saying, I need a provider, then they should shut up and go away. But they won't, unless we actually start to have those dialogues. So, Denise, I'd like to, in a couple of weeks, have a discussion about, feminism, when it came into the community, what it's done, and what we need to do so that we can move out of that, because that really would solve a lot of our issues with
Yeah.
each other. Because a lot of
Yeah.
the issues black men and women have with each other are manufactured. They don't even belong to us.
Right. Right. For
they,
sure.
they don't even belong to us. So anyway, yeah. So today was a great discussion. If you guys have closing comments, let's do that. We can part two this discussion, but I definitely want to have that discussion on feminism. So yeah, any closing comments?
Well, I'll say, well, thanks for pulling me into this discussion, Daryl.
Yes, sir.
For one. But I'll say this, and you mentioned April prayer earlier, and I'll just mention this, and this sister really talks about what we can actually do in situations in dealing with the police. That's what this whole idea, what happened with the young lady, had to deal with the police for one. But the game that she actually has out there is called Trials and Triumph. I've
Yeah.
actually played the game,
I
and what
played
it
it with DJ.
does, oh, right, I actually played it with
Yeah.
April.
Okay.
Uh,
Oh,
yes, right. And
Well,
and I really I want to put this out there because what it does also is gives you the opportunity to begin to have these conversations with your kids about and your family, really, not just your kids, but certainly with your kids, but with your family about what to do when you encounter the police. But it also will lend itself to other conversations outside of just dealing with the police because it's some life stuff that actually can actually those discussions can actually happen. So I just implore people to really have discussions with your kids, with your family. I keep saying kids because I'm really concerned about kids, and when we're talking about a child in this particular situation, but have
yeah.
these discussions with your family, and about life in terms of actually what you can do to take care of yourself, because that's really important. And not think that, and particularly to Black women, not feeling as though you have to do this all by yourself, that you can do this all by yourself. Because when I talk about a village, I'm literally talking about people stepping up in someone's life. And not everybody can provide the same thing. Some people can provide what they can provide and what they can do that's beneficial. We need to take it, and everybody needs to accept those things.
Real talk. Real talk. All right. Denise, Dathon, you have any closing comments?
Oh no, man. Just thanks. This is an important conversation to have. Thanks for inviting me on. I appreciate the dialogue. That's all.
All right. Denise.
yeah, brother, I really appreciate you, stepping out there and having this conversation. I think it's an important conversation, and there's so many facets to it that it deserves a continued dialogue. To any viewers, listeners, what I would say is there is no such thing as officer friendly.
Yeah,
No such thing as officer friendly.
that's real. Yeah, there is no officer friendly. Absolutely. So yeah, so I hope that this dialogue kind of sparks something. I just came back to Facebook because some black demon reported me for talking about Asian hate. I'm like, that's not our issue. That's these are the issues that belong to us. These are the issues we need to discuss our own issues. So yeah, so definitely Denise, I'll be getting at you. We need to have that discussion
Okay.
about about feminism and what it's done to our community. So thank you guys, and yeah, we'll talk soon.
Peace
All
and
right.
blessings.
All
All
right.
right,
Take it easy.
peace.
All right. Take care, everybody.
All right.
Bye.